What's going on, gentlemen? Welcome to another video on the Longevity Strength Coach channel. My promise to you is you are going to get my top 5 recommendations for upper body in the gym for men over the age of 40. The reasons why these exercises should be in your program, how to put them into your program, and how I personally put them into my program for the athletes on the program. The plan for today, I'm going to talk about the big three. I call them the big three. They are so important that you understand and appreciate these 3 words when you are training in the gym. Tempo, execution, intensity. I'll talk about it in a sec. We're going to go into the 5 exercises in which I recommend, how I program them into a workout for myself, how I program into a workout for other people. Final points, send you on your way. If that sounds useful to you, get yourselves comfortable, lads. My name is Paul Green. I'm a former British paratrooper and Special Forces Support Group operator. Most of the time in the past decade, I have been in the gym training other men in these elite units, including the Royal Marines, the RAF, and the Parachute Regiment. Work with a lot of blokes, and absolutely love doing this thing. One thing I've noticed, though, in this very unique elite bubble, so to speak, is that the older people get, the fitter and stronger they get. Now, I know they will complain about their bodies and stuff like that, but still, at the end of the day, they are head and shoulders above their younger counterparts. But the reason being is they have to be. They have to have the ability to problem solve, lead, and be intelligent in the most demanding scenarios. The younger lads don't have to think, they just have to do. The older they get, the more responsibility, the more leadership responsibilities are placed on their shoulders. They have to be fitter and stronger. But then when I step out of that elite bubble, everybody has these excuses about age and all this stuff. Well, it's not the case, because I've seen it day in, day out. The older lads, the sergeant majors, the bosses, they're absolutely all over this stuff. That's a past me. This is the current me. I am currently full-time online through the longevity program, in which I train men over the age of 40 through a 36-week training cycle, split up into 3 training blocks: fundamentals block, resilience block, and athleticism block. My mission is to form fundamental strength of the joints, resilient joints, and then build some athleticism. Right, the big 3, men. Before you even step into a gym, before you even start seriously conducting physical training and weight training and strength training, you need to understand these 3 words. These 3 words are the most important things. You can go into the gym, you can copy off people, you can do the same session as your mates, you can watch a few videos on YouTube, watch a few videos on Instagram, and you can train. Yeah, okay. But unless you understand these 3 things, you're just going to be guessing a lot of the time. So, execution. You should aspire to execute every movement perfectly. And I know you're probably thinking, I've got all these excuses. I don't care about your excuses. You should still have that aspiration to execute the movements perfectly. And then, obviously, perfectly is a subjective word. What I mean by perfectly is with a full range of motion. You should aspire to do every single movement in the gym with a full range of motion. You know what? I'll give you some leeway. 80 to 90% of your movements in the gym should have full range of motion. The reason why they should have full range of motion, because if they don't strengthen the joints. The only way you strengthen the joints is by getting the muscles into their lengthened positions. If you don't fully lengthen the muscles, you're only strengthening 60-70% of the muscle. You're not strengthening the joints. And you wouldn't be watching my videos if you had really strong joints and you didn't have issues with your joints, you didn't have pain in your joints. Does that make sense? So, aspiration of perfect technique. It doesn't mean your technique has to be perfect. It just means a lot of your movements in the gym mostly have to have a full range of motion focus. Tempo. To make that level of execution safe, regardless of age, you must be considerate of the tempo in which you're performing each rep. Tempo is how fast you do every rep, or how slow you do every rep. And tempo is a very important part of the fundamentals block, the first 12-week block most people go on to on my program. They do the lowering phase of the rep, the eccentric portion of the rep, which is where you get the biggest strength gains and the biggest muscle mass gains. They do that portion of the rep for 3 seconds. They hold the bottom position for 1 second, and then they return back to the start another 1 second. So every single repetition takes 5 seconds. You've got more than one muscle contraction, men. If you have that level of focus, that level of control, that allows you to safely execute full range of motion. These hand in hand make sure the quality of what you're doing in the gym is very high level. However, that means nothing without intensity. If you don't train at 90 to 95% intensity, you're just not going to get any results in the gym. So think about the last time you were in the gym. How hard are you training? Have you got that maintenance mentality? Oh, I'm just maintaining, I'm getting old, I'm just trying to maintain. Is that your mentality? Or are you trying to build? Are you trying to grow? Are you trying to fight all these shitty little excuses that most of your friends have? 90 to 95% intensity is the requirement to build muscle and build strength. And if you don't want to build strength, you don't want stronger joints, then, this video is probably not for you. So, these three together, clearly very important parts of the puzzle. With that in mind, let's get straight into the exercises. So exercise number 1, upper body, flat dumbbell chest press. So, straight away, execution, the first thing you're looking at. Have I got close to perfect technique? Well, I'm going all the way down, I've got a lot of control, and my elbow position isn't ridiculously wide. That's the first thing you should be looking at with regards to execution, of yourself doing these movements. Next thing, tempo. How long is it taking me to get down? 1, 2, 3, and I'm pausing at the bottom for a second. 2, 3, pause, up. 1, 2, 3, pause, up. I'm just going to pause this here. Right, if you prioritise, say if each rep takes 5 seconds, and the downward part of the rep, the eccentric contraction of that repetition, takes longer than the concentric, which is the upward, you're going to get more muscle mass and more strength gains. But also, forget about that. That level of control allows you to safely be at that bottom position for a second and really get stronger joints. Really strengthen your joints. It's like you're doing stretching with weight. That's the way I see it now. Like, I'm stretching with weight. I'm getting more flexible and I'm getting stronger. Obviously on this working set, it's not 90 to 95% intensity. Clearly that's a warm-up set. But you understand what I'm saying. Cool. Next exercise, you probably didn't think this one was coming. The weighted plank. So this is one of my favourites. One thing I see a lot of in the gym is that people have an endurance focus whenever they're training their abdominal muscles. Why do you not strengthen your abdominal muscles the same way you strengthen your chest? It just doesn't happen. It's just a common theme in the gym is people will do, for some reason, everything that they do with regard to their core and their abs will be body weight, if they even do it at all. Get some weight on your back. Get some weight involved in the situation. Add the weight progressively, week by week. It's important, right? Obviously, the weighted plank is neutral spine. Locks in the spine in a neutral position, and now you're adding resistance through your lower back to allow your abdominal muscles to work a hell of a lot harder. This exercise has really helped me with low back pain over the years. And one thing that I just need to make you aware of, if you're going to do this, a bit fiddly to get into, but it's worth doing. Hands are directly underneath the shoulders. For those of you that are more advanced with your core strength, you can then walk your hands 6 inches further forward. That will expose the spine a little bit more by lengthening the abdominal muscles. And then you go hands further forward and your core's a little bit more exposed. Does that make sense? Great exercise. I recommend doing it up to 30 seconds. About 30-second efforts. No more than 60-second efforts, because again, most people get into the body weight or the endurance trap with their core. They'll sit there and bang out 60 sit-ups. It's like, why? Why don't you do 10 with 60 kilos on your chest? Do you know what I mean? Get strong. Forget about endurance. When you get to the age of 40, your endurance doesn't get any worse, but your strength, power and speed does. So let's train our strength, power and speed, please. Does that make sense? Cool. Next exercise. You probably expected this one. Exercise number 3 is the chin up, right? And one thing I want you to realise is the fact that I said chin up and I didn't say pull up. But I'm going to explain why. And just pay attention to these 3 as I bring up this video. Execution, tempo, intensity. Execution, tempo, intensity. Right, the reason I prefer the chin up, and the chin up gets its place in my top 5 recommendation, is because the chin up allows me to bring my elbows lower than it would a pull up. If my elbows are lower, I can actually shorten my latissimus dorsi muscles a little bit more than I could if my hands were wide. However, there is pros and cons. It's literally a coin toss. But that's the rationale behind it. I prefer chin-ups because of that reason. I can get a greater range of motion with a chin-up. I can fully extend my shoulders. As you can see here, when I sink all the way down, every single time, full range of motion. And I've got this in my mind. My technique, it's my body. I want my body to be as perfect as possible. So why would I do a half rep? This is my body. You can't cut corners with your own body. So don't you want to treat it exceptionally well when you're in the gym? Training yourself. Do you know what I mean? Like, fair enough, you're playing a computer game and you want to cut a corner or whatever, but you're not. This is your body. So this is what I'm saying, I aspire to have perfect technique. The pull-up is a very complicated, and pulling in general is a very complicated movement. I'll try and summarise it up in 3 points for you here. You've got the stretch phase. Watch. My second rep is immaculate. My first one's a bit shabby. Watch. So 1, 2, 3. Stretch. Shoulder blades. Elbows down. 1, 2, 3. Stretch. Shoulder blades, pull my elbows down. If you do that on your pulling movements, men, honestly, use your shoulder blades. If you're using your shoulder blades, your traps are working. Too many people, when they're doing any pulling movement in the gym, their traps are not working. So that's exercise number 3. Execution. Trying to be perfect with my technique. If I cannot display perfect technique because I'm not strong enough to do a pull-up, then don't avoid pull-ups. Just put a resistance band over the bar and then put it in between your legs. Still do that movement. It's a great movement. It's one of the best. It's probably one of the best movements in the gym, like out of everything. Tempo. Just because you might not be strong enough doesn't mean you can't still do tempo. Again, you can use the assisted chin up machine, or you can use the resistance bands. And intensity. Close to every set of my pull-ups is it's close to failure, so it's like above 95%. You probably expected this. Exercise number 4 is going to be dips. And we'll get straight into this. And there's one point with dips, right, that might catch you out. And it's the position of your torso. So if you're very straight with your dips, you're going to be very focused on the triceps. By leaning forward slightly, I allow myself to push from my lower chest. Does that make sense? And what I get with this, with regards to execution again, is, look, my execute, bang. See how the torso's there? It's a tiny adjustment, man, but honestly, you'll feel it so much more in your chest when you do it this way. Also, full range of motion of the shoulders. My shoulders are getting into full extension. And now some people will avoid this exercise for that reason. And I challenge you not to. Again, if you have to put a resistance band in for the first few weeks, first couple of months, by all means, it doesn't matter. The way in which you lift, or the way in which you believe you have lifted for the past decade, throw that out the window. Intensity, tempo. How many of yous are training with this level of intensity, with this level of tempo, with full range of motion, all mixed in together in your mind every single repetition? So don't avoid this exercise. Obviously you're getting your chest, you're getting your triceps involved as well. Really good for elbows, really good for the health of your elbows, dips. That's enough for the dips. And the next one, the last one in this little bunch of 5 of my current favourites, is the horizontal row. And I'll tell you exactly why this is absolutely awesome. Bear in mind, this is a chest assisted horizontal row, right? And look at how much I can round my upper back. I can round my upper back fully, allowing my shoulder blades to go, because my chest's assisted. Now, if your chest isn't assisted, you would probably have to stabilise your shoulder blades, because you might not be happy with this rounded position if your chest wasn't assisted. Does that make sense? So the reason this horizontal row is absolutely unbelievable is just because it's very rare when you're in the gym that you have the luxury to fully round your upper spine and fully open your shoulder blades and get the lengthening of your traps. Nobody gets a full lengthening of their traps. Very rare thing to do. It took me about 10 years to actually appreciate that this was even important, right? So I like this high elbow row. It's kind of I kind of set myself up because I want my elbows to pull from a high position, which means that traps will kind of be the focus point for this exercise. Whereas obviously pull-ups with my elbows really narrow, the lats are the priority with pull-ups. But this high elbow position means traps, low elbow position means lats. And another thing is the position of your shoulder blades. Your traps are required to either stabilise or move the shoulder blades. Your traps either move them up, down, out and in. And having the level of consideration and control over your shoulder blades will allow your traps to be like, all right, I'm supposed to do some work. And this is why I really like this exercise, because I'm stretching the shoulder blades and then I initiate by pulling my shoulders back, and then I allow my lats to then take over into that squeeze in the final position. Does that make sense? So there's my 5 exercises. I'm just going to back out of this now. So this is the order that I delivered these in, right? And how I would structure these into a workout. Basically, you've got to ask yourself what your priorities are. Yeah? So currently my priorities are pull-ups. I really want my pull-ups to get really heavy, really good technique, additional weight. So what I will do is I will go for, currently, I will move my chin-ups up to there. And just because I really, really want to fry my back muscles, I'm going to go for the horizontal row as well, number 2. After that, I'm going to go into the chest stuff and I'm going to finish with the core. But that's my personal preference, right? based off my current priorities. My back muscles are currently my priority. A bit of a weaker area at the moment, so I really want to get the chin-up numbers up, you know, with resistance as well. I really want to destroy my back on the horizontal row because I really want my traps to start developing. Then I'm going to go into my flat dumbbell chest press, then the dips, and then I'm going to finish with a weighted plank. A rule of thumb, if you don't have a really specific goal like me, then just always start with the biggest muscles first. Don't go into the gym and start with like triceps or calves, and then try and always start with the biggest muscles first. And again, with men over the age of 40, over the 50, over 60-year-old, sometimes their priority isn't even movements or muscles. Sometimes their priority is joints. So for example, if I had a lower body version of this video, their priority area might be their knees. So you would start with a few exercises which really expose the knee. Do you know what I mean? And really get the knee nice and strong. So priorities, and then biggest muscles first, finish with the smaller muscles. Does that make sense? Fail. Right, so now we're going to go on to how I've programmed for one of the gentlemen on the longevity program, and I'll just show you one of his upper body days of training. Hopefully the link works straight away. Workouts. Right, upper body one. I'll zoom in for you here, boys, because that's pretty savage. So, flat dumbbell chest press, start things off, then an incline chest press machine, then he's got dips. He's got 3 movements, he's done an upper body session basically, and he's got 3 movements for chest, 2 sets each. However, like I've said previously, 90 and 95% intensity on both of them sets, right? I've done the research. The studies suggest the sweet spot usually for amount of daily volume on a muscle group is about 6 sets. Then he moves on to back. Even better version of a chin up, you can get more range of motion, you can get slightly better range of motion, is the single arm lat pull down. You can get a little bit more at the bottom, and you can get a little bit more at the top as well. 2 sets. Chest assisted dumbbell row. You got chin ups, 2 sets. With this guy, because he's got muscle building goals, the pull ups are further to the end. Pull ups is a great exercise for strength. Yeah. So he's treating this like a muscle building exercise, so it's not far up the chain. He's got a bit of a shoulder issue, so he's got some exercises in there before he does a shoulder exercise, which is rotations on the cable, internal rotation on the cable, and he's got an internal rotation laying down with dumbbells. He's got a cable shoulder raise, and then he's got a standing bicep curl. There's a lot of stuff going on in there, but his availability limits him to, 3 sessions per week. There's a lot of volume in there. This session takes about an hour and a half. But notice how traditionally in the gym, 3 sets of 10. He has got 2 sets. He can do as many warm-up sets as he wants. I don't care about warm-up sets. Warm-up sets are not going to get him stronger joints. But this is how I program it. And yeah, I could explain in more detail how I program it, why I program this. However, I'm not going to bore the life out of you with the numbers. I just thought I'd give you some context in this video and me actually practicing what I preach on this video. If you forget everything about this video, right, you forget what exercises, you got a memory of a goldfish, you forget absolutely everything, just take this away. You will not get better, you will not get stronger, you will not get fitter by training at 60 to 70% intensity. Go in the gym, getting a little bit of a sweat on. You won't even get, if you're a beginner lifter, okay, you might get better after, 75 to 80% intensity. But the older you get, the harder you need to train. And the common trend is that the older people get, the less intense they want to train, because they've just got comfortable retirement, and the joint issues that have occurred over the past decades makes them reluctant to do this. However, with this, allows you to confidently do this, which allows you to confidently do this. So important. As people get older, they fall into this downward spiral of, I'm going to train hard. I'm not going to train as hard now because I've got 10 excuses. I'm not going to train as hard now. It's not going to serve you very well. It might serve your mental health a little bit well, going to the gym, you know, and exercising. But if you actually want to train, then intensity is required. If you want to exercise, by all means, you know, 50%, 60%, bums and tums, sit-ups, you know, some stretching, happy days. But this channel is not about exercising. This channel is about training fucking hard and getting stronger than you've ever been. Especially getting your joints stronger than they've ever been in years. 20 minutes, sub 30 minutes. Gentlemen, thank you very much if you made it to this point of the video. I appreciate your time. Hopefully you appreciate the video. If you do, leave a like. Let us know. If you have a different 5 exercises, which are your 5, get them in the comments. I want to see them. See if you can outperform them. Give the reasons why as well.